I've always wondered how hard it would be to be totally self-sufficient when it comes to food. And when I think about food, I think of supermarkets. For the next 4 weeks, that's all going to change. I'm going to catch, grow, or find every single bit of food that I need to eat. And I honestly don't know if this is going to be an absolute breeze or if it's going to be the hungriest, most uncomfortable 4 weeks of my life. So it's week 3 of my attempt to live 4 weeks on only what I can catch, grow, or find. And this week, things have been going pretty smoothly.
You get out of that, that's not your food.
Despite now being 7 kilograms lighter than when I started, I still had plenty of chicken to eat from week 2, and I went out and caught a bunch of prawns in the cast net.
2 or 3 macadamias at a time.
I've had a bit of success making my own cooking oil.
That's what we got.
I've also had plenty of pumpkins and salad from the garden.
I'm eating an entire pumpkin.
And did a bit of foraging. But there's one thing I'm still struggling with.
This no coffee situation is really starting to drag on now. Planting a coffee tree, it's going to take a couple of years.
But a few people have been saying they'd like to see a bit more of how some things are done. So this video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to quickly run through how to grow your own mushrooms, how to make your own sea salt, and introduce a couple of foraged foods that I've found really useful. I'll get back to the salt and mushrooms shortly, but first, some bush foods. The number one thing to point out here is if you're foraging food from the environment,
The white starchy root in there, and that's all edible.
don't ever eat anything unless you're 100% sure it's safe.
All clear, positive ID there.
Ideally, tag along with an expert if you're planning on foraging for the first time.
And you'll be amazed by some of the flavours that you'll get.
Alright, so I thought I'd just show you a few new things that I've discovered that I can eat that have been really, really helpful for me. The first thing is the bungwall fern. This is the tuber or the root that goes down underneath it. These things grow all up the east coast of Queensland, into the Northern Territory and down into New South Wales. And you find them anywhere where the soils are a little bit sandy, near the coast, a little bit salty. So these were a staple of Indigenous people. They don't look like much here, but inside here, if you peel it back, and there's a nice starchy white inside. You can eat that raw. You can bake it up and then you munch on it, go for it, and they're really pretty tasty, pretty good. This guy here, they call them native grape. These grow in heavily forested gullies, close to water. The leaves have got a really distinct serrated edge on them. They're actually called a kangaroo vine, or these are the berry that come off the kangaroo vine. They're good, they're high in sugar, though they might look like a blueberry, they don't taste like a blueberry. So I think the best way for me to illustrate what they taste like is to eat a couple. They're perfectly fine, perfectly good for you, but they are just so, I think the word is tart. If you pick them and then leave them for a while, they seem to get a bit more sugary, but I guarantee there'll be some good recipes out there for them. All right, so this last one is actually, this is a weed. Find it growing a lot of the time in creek beds, alongside creek beds. For some reason, it's got the name Queensland Arrowroot. I'm not sure where the Queensland came from, because this guy, it comes from South America. They're a weed, you can go and pick them, and they're really filling. This is actually a really small root. This one wasn't really ready to be picked now. But basically, you want to dig it up, dig deep down into the root so you get all of this, because this is the bit you eat here. In there, you take the skin off, you can cut these guys up, fry them up like a potato chip. They're really high in carbs, really filling, and once they're fried, they're absolutely delicious. So, because I'm feeling a bit lazy, I just chopped up the arrowroot and got the bungwall fern and just fried it in a pan just like you would with a potato to make chips. But they're so delicious. The thing that has really amazed me during this few weeks of trying to learn and identify things is there's so much food around us all the time if you know where to look.
Making your own salt is super easy. It feels like you're doing your own science experiment, and it's strangely really rewarding. There are lots of methods. The only catch for this one is that you'll need to live within a reasonable distance of the ocean to get your salt water. Here's what you'll need: a couple of 10 or 20 litre buckets, depending on how much you want to make. a stovetop with at least 2 cookers, a long, high-sided pan or oven tray, one that can span your 2 cookers. And ideally, you'll also have a big cooking pot and somewhere you can have an outdoor fire. That'll save you some gas or electricity, but it's not essential. Once you get a good fire going with some decent coals, what you want to do is get a couple of buckets of your seawater, strain it through a dishcloth. That will filter out the sand, any dirt that's in there, but it'll allow the salt to travel through it. Fill up your pot and then chuck it on the fire. Just let it steam off and that will evaporate all the water out. I just put the lid on to keep the ash out, but it would evaporate faster without it. I've left that salt simmering overnight, but you don't have to do that. It's boiled down quite a bit now. So now I'm going to take it inside, and the last bit I'm going to do on the stove. I'll just tip it on here. There's 2 burners going underneath it, evaporate it all out, and I'll just be left with the salt in here. Starting to salt up really nicely. I'm just kind of pushing all the salt to one end and letting the water evaporate from the other end. I've only used about half of the water that I've got, but it makes so much salt that I'm just not going to bother with the rest. Scraping it all up like this. Then I'm going to evaporate the rest of the little bit of water that's in there, chuck it under the griller to dry it all out, and then it's good to go. I put that on about 100 degrees for around 15 minutes. There we go, that's all done. That was probably 20 litres of seawater, and that's got me more salt than I'm gonna need in the next 6 months or so. So yeah, it takes a bit of time, but you do get a heap of salt out of it.
Mushroom time.
The reason I picked mushrooms is they're super easy to grow, they're really good for you, and anyone can grow them just about anywhere. All you need to get started, a 20 litre bucket with a lid, sugarcane mulch, some hydrated lime, which you can buy at any hardware store and it's really cheap, some micro pour tape, you can get that at the chemist, and some water and a couple of laundry buckets, one that's a full sort of one of those black bins, another one that's got holes in it, it's porous, and finally, and most importantly, grain spore. So you put this guy into your black bin like that. Hydrated lime, I think these buckets are like 60 litres, so 240 grams we're going to chuck in there, give or take, and I'm going to be really non-specific with that. Soaking the sugarcane in the hydrated lime water partially sterilises the mulch and gets it ready for the mushroom spore to take root. Fill it up, say 2/3 with water, fresh water, and cold water. I haven't really measured it out too specifically, but I don't think it really matters that much as long as you've got roughly that 3 to 4 grams of hydrated lime to water. Okay, so when your bucket's about kind of 2/3 full, all you do, just fill it up with sugarcane mulch. So the sugarcane mulch comes, sort of roughly closest to the top, but it's all submerged underneath the lime water. I'm just gonna leave that overnight, get back to it in the morning, and yeah, I'll show you how the rest is done. All right, so I've just let that pasteurize in that lime mix there overnight. Just gonna grab out my sugarcane mulch and yeah, chuck our mushroom spore in. So I just let that water drain out of the sugarcane mulch for about 10 minutes or so, and then we're good to go. So this is our grain spore. It's basically grain that's been inoculated with the mushroom mycelium, and that's been allowed to propagate. You can make it yourself, but if you're getting started, I'd recommend probably just going online, buying. You can get them from any mushroom supplier in Australia. I'm using pink oysters. They're the easiest to grow. They've got a really big temperature range. They don't need much looking after at all. They're super easy. I've got a bucket here. I have drilled a bunch of holes in. I'm going to mix up my grain spore with my sugarcane mulch. Mix it all up nice and evenly through. Put it in the bucket. And that's it. Now I'll chuck on the lid. Get this micro pour tape, shove it over all the holes, so just a strip, it's fine over each. The micro pour tape locks in the humidity, but still allows air to pass through. And then that's it. They don't need it to be dark, so you can have it in a perfectly well lit area, just probably out of direct sun. But yeah, because they like a bit of humidity, you can hit them with a spray bottle every now and then, or
I just put mine in the bathroom because having a hot shower, you get that steam going, and that seems to be plenty for them.